Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel for one more edition of Out Today and What I Missed for the first half of 2025 with the last week of June 2025. That's right, June 27th, 2025. I say 2025 a lot, but I'm also friggin' exhausted from everything that I've been doing, as when I am done with this week's edition, I will have covered 600 albums in 5 months and an extra week. So, as you may have guessed, I am taking next month off. That is the Heavy Debriefing summer vacation. I am not doing any album reviews till the last week of July just to catch up on anything I might have missed during July. And then we'll get back into the normal thing from October to November, and then of course we'll get into the top 100 albums of 2025. But we still gotta do this first. We have 8 brand new albums out today and 32 albums that I missed along the way. That's right, 40 albums this week. Again, you can hear how exhausted I am, but I will try not to show it as I'm doing the album reviews. Enough of me yammering, let's get into it. First up, we have All Men Unto Me with Requiem. The sophomore album from Ryan Gleave of Ashen Heart is one of the most unique albums that I've heard all year, and it's absolutely not for the faint of heart. This is an experimental album that hits everything from noise to doom to post-rock to drone to electronic, and so much more. This is a creative endeavor that you truly don't know where it's going no matter how many times you listen to it. It's dense and it's full of layers, and no two tracks sound the same. Even though all of this, the music flows together and holds your attention. If you enjoy this style of music, that is left of center. I would highly recommend this for anyone who appreciates the work of Toby Driver, of K.O. Dodds, Model Under the Well, and other work, and want to explore the true meaning of genre bending. This will go over a lot of people's heads, and rightfully so, but for others, this is a dream album. Let your ears be the ears of a beholder, and check this one out, if you dare. Next, we have Blood Vulture with Die Close. The debut album from Jordan Olds of 2 Minutes to Late Night, very funny YouTube show, is a combination that I never would have imagined worked so well as it does, and it blows me away every time that I listen to it. This is a concept of a vampire struggling to be an outcast in the world, and it feels like the world is devouring itself in the same pace. A grand mix of gothic, doom, sludge, grunge, and more that feels like an album that came out in 1995, but was remixed and remastered for 2025. The music goes all over the place, from some of the most slow, crushing riffs that you could imagine to full-on double bass assaults to those procky riffs that feels like it comes straight out of nowhere, but it couldn't feel more appropriate. And again, those sludgy and grungy moments that are not my usual typical bag, but in this context, it really shocks me and it feels quite welcomed. The fact that I hear as much Alice in Chains as I do Baroness, as I do Typo Negative, as I do Chemist, feels like a combination that shouldn't work, but it couldn't be more effective, and I love every second of it. If this is just the first chapter of this concept, I feel like the music will just bloom further and get even stronger as the story goes along. Even with this many listens, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this album, and I love it for that reason. It feels so good to the ears, and it just grows on me more and more with time. If you think you'll dig this one, trust me, you will. Give this one a proper shot and prepare to be blown away. Next up, we have Heaven Shall Burn with Heimat. The legendary German metalcore melodeath band is back with their 10th album in 25 years since their debut album, and the band still sounds just as hungry, angry, and everything else that has made me a fan since I discovered the band with the album Anticon back in 2004. The band combines this brilliant mix of the heaviest ends of metalcore, the brutal moments of melodeath, and the brilliant melodic moments of both ends, and you'll have one of the most best examples of genre bending in these genres. The heaviest songs on here are pure crushers, and the melodic ends are heart-wrenching and filled with so much emotion. Mix that with a production style that is raw but still punchy, and it has an aggressive take on the state of the world, and this is going down as one of the best albums in the band's discography. As usual, the band does a cover, and this time they're doing one of my favorite bands, Killswitch Engage, with their rendition of Numbered Days, and it actually features Jesse Leach of Killswitch doing some guest vocals. Their version gets even heavier than the original, and I love it for that. And hearing Jesse do such an impeccable job of it 25 years later is such a great thing to hear. Of this grand mix of melodeath and metalcore, this is easily one of the best of the year, and Heaven Shall Burn proves why they have been in the game for so long, and with no intentions of stopping anytime soon. If you love either genre, you need to check this one out and prepare to be floored. Here we have King Witch with 3 albums into the Scottish band's career, and they have put out one of the best examples of epic doom metal in 2025 so far, if not the entire year. The production is beyond stellar, the songwriting is classic, and it hits just as hard in the modern day, but what makes it stand out is the performances on this album from everyone in the band. While currently just a trio of vocals, guitar, and bass, and some hired-out drums, this feels like a band that has at least 10 people performing on it. Of course, I have to point out the vocal performances of Laura Donnelly, who who feels like a reincarnation of Messiah and Dio in female form in the best of ways. I can't stress this enough. This is one of the best epic doom metal albums of 2025, bar none. If you enjoy the obvious likes of Candlemass or a more updated version of doom bands like Witch Mountain and Sahedrin, who I reviewed just earlier this year, you need to check out King Witch. Do not miss out on this one. Here we have Nicholas Sonne with Electric Dreams. The debut solo album from the singer of Evil Masquerade, Defecto, and Ari's Descendant is one of the most bombastic albums I've heard in recent times. Sonne is a master multi-instrumentalist and proves that in his other bands, and everything that he records is always on par with some of the best of the respective genres that he covers in that particular year. This time around, he is covering everything that he loves to play, sing, and listen to all in one package, and it's such an enjoyable experience. It's the kind of album that just makes you grin from ear to ear as you listen, as long as you dig the styles anyway. With the impeccable vocal range and absolute shredding ability, Sonne has put out an album that rivals bands that do anything from prog metal, power metal, shred, AOR, and more, and shows how it really can be done. The production is perfection, and the songwriting is off the charts. This is how you make a fun album that shows all of your cards, but still leaves a little bit of mystique. If you want a pure, unadulterated, fun rock and metal album, check out Electric Dreams by Nicholas Sonne. Next up, we have Power Hill with Generation X. The debut album from the Swiss farm metal band is a fun, tongue-in-cheek look at 80s glam, hard rock, AOR, and more, but with a farmer's touch in the lyric department. It's a strange take to take these sounds of bands like Slaughter, Firehouse, Faster Pussycat, and make them about raising cattle, milking cows, and cleaning stables, but they found a way to do it that makes you feel like you're listening to the good old days, but gives you a good chuckle at the same time. All you have to do is look at their official cow mascot, and you'll see the seriousness that you should take this band, but that is not to say that the music is subpar. The music is well crafted and has a lot of thought and power behind it. Whether they're doing ballads or the heaviest that 80s glam rock ever hit, Power Hill does it all, and it makes you tend to the land at the same time. If this sounds like a fun time to you, or you're just curious to see what this band could possibly even be about, you really should give this one a proper shot. Growing up in a small farm town like I did, I can appreciate this one, so maybe you will as well. And now we have Sodom with The Arsonist. Sodom have returned with their 17th album, and they prove that they never left the top of their game in the 21st century. One of the leading examples of the Big Four of German thrash has put out another classic example of their seminal sound, but they continuously updated just enough to show their evolution and staying power. The band has all the signature sounds and continues to mess with tempo changes, style changes, and never losing sight of what the band has accomplished in over 40 plus years of recording albums. The production is raw, but it's just polished enough, and above all, authentic. The songwriting is inspired, and I can only imagine how hard it would hit live. Angel Ripper and company have easily put out one of the best classic thrash metal albums of the year, and continuously put out albums of bands of their era to shame with their quality. If you want proof that the longevity doesn't mean that you have to go stale, check out the new one from Sodom. While unfortunately they're going to be taking a break from the live setting and potentially never coming back, and I'm sad I never got to see them live, I thank Sodom for everything that they've accomplished, and I hope this doesn't mean that they're done making music as well. And finally, for brand new music out today, we have TSS with End of Time. The third album from this French modern metal band, and the first one under the moniker of TSS, is not my normal foray into music, but I can't deny how catchy this album is, listen after listen. A very heavily electronic album filled with modern metal tropes, going from some of the heaviest of breakdowns, and even black metal screams, to the catchiest of mainstream radio courses, and everything in between. Again, I normally don't go down this path in my music listening, but there's something about the earnest display here of a band wanting to explore more than just their earlier emo roots and getting into heavier territory, while still keeping this French background intact with a lot of their lyrics being in their native tongue, and again, the genre bending on display that just has me so intrigued. I love it when a band can change their perspective and hit moments that could make Bring Me the Horizon and Poppy fans together as much as those who enjoy synthwave, emo, deathcore, experimental, and more in the same show. Give this one a shot if you want to see how mainstream yet diverse 2020s modern metal can be in just one album. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with Aeon Winds with An Ode to the Mountains. The fourth album from the Slovakian band hits right at home with those looking for a dark tinge to their black metal, but still wants it to feel very grand. While the production does have this raw approach that you'd expect in a lot of 90s black metal, you'd be surprised how many layers are attached to the arrangements and especially the instrumentation. It feels like a mix of latter-day Emperor, early-day Dimmu Borgir, and a ton of limbonic art. It's a rewarding mixture that unlocks the more that you listen to it, and discover everything that it has to display. It matches up to the album title, as this does feel like a mountain of an album, but if you give it time, you'll see climbing this album was more than worth it. Now we have Exilium with Myth of Mankind. 3 albums since 2018 for this Italian folk metal band, and they just continue to get bigger, better, and stronger. With a gargantuan 9-person lineup, you can hear the metal side and the authentic folk side collide together to create a style of folk metal that feels natural and rewarding to listen to time and time again. The production is clear, and it lets you hear every layer of instrumentation on display, and the songwriting goes from the most ethereal folk to the heaviest ends of folk metal in just one fell swoop. It also gets better the more that you listen to it. You'll obviously hear nods to Helveti, but I also compare this to the likes of Neopera, Valork, and Trolled. This is such a fun folk metal album that is more than worthy of your attention. Next up is a band name and an album title that I really hope I get right. Amalcam with Sheer Hashiram. And if I got that wrong, I deeply apologize. 3 albums into this Italian-Polish band's discography finds the band at their best state to date. The production is brutal and so clean, particularly for the genre. The songwriting hits hard and is filled with nods and ends to other genres, while staying tried and true to the black metal genre. Above all, the performances here are the main selling point. This is some of the most competent and well-crafted straight-up black metal I've heard all year. Coming in at 8 chants over 38 minutes is the perfect length for an album like this. Again, this is some of the best created black metal I've heard all year, and it only gets better the more you listen to it. Give this one a proper listen if you dig the likes of Watain, Dissection, and Moi, and you'll be floored by what you hear. Now we have Answer from Sickness with Descendre. The 3rd album in 6 years from this French one-man band is quite the sight to behold, combining cosmic black metal, atmospheric black metal, and I dare say a little DSBM and post-black into the mix, and you have an album that hits like a ton of bricks. The album feels like you are drifting into space and getting sucked into a black void, but there's this occasional majestic melodic part that makes you feel like you're seeing something truly magical in front of you, to make your impending doom feel almost worth it. It feels like a true album about loneliness that one can feel in the metaphor of using space, which a lot of cosmic black metal does, but it hits hard when you think about how that applies to Earth and how it can apply to your own life. The production is quite enjoyable and stunning for a style that is normally regarded as raw and sometimes even unbearable, especially in the production style. Mist E is doing some phenomenal work here and lets you enjoy the wonders of space and the bleakness that comes with it. If that's how you enjoy your black metal, you definitely need to check this one out. Next up, we have Akrust with Waving at the Sky. The sophomore album from this Norwegian band is something that grabs your attention, no matter your love of prog music, and it keeps your attention from beginning to end. I completely missed the boat on their debut album 2 years ago, but I'm so glad to get on board with this one, as it captures so much of what I love about prog as a whole, while keeping out the wank that really comes with a lot of it. It's rare to find a band that I can hear as much Between the Buried and Me as I do Porcupine Tree, as I do King Crimson, as I do Opeth, but that's exactly what happens here. It feels like a true tribute to the genre of progressive rock and explores the most melodic, mellow, heavy, and polarizing moments of it all while holding a predominantly clean vocal approach, while there is the occasional scream or two, and a refined songwriting style behind it all. The production is outstanding and truly lets everyone shine. It's a dark album, as you would imagine with their influences stated above, but it is held together with such authentic songwriting that makes you want to go back to it time and time again to explore. If you think prog has been lacking this year, first of all, shame on you. You've missed out on a lot. But second, check out the latest album from this up-and-coming band. It won't be long until they are heralded as one of the best of the genre. Now we have Brian Eckerman with The Fall from Heaven. 9 albums in 11 years from the San Antonio one-man band, and it's my first foray with the music, but I really enjoy what I'm hearing. Just one listen to his work makes me wish that I would have heard him sooner, as this is some truly fantastic work. Brian does everything on this album, and it goes to show that sometimes the best course of action is to handle everything the way that you want it done to be able to achieve that goal. The music goes across the board from black and death metal, and handles it all with this finesse that you just wouldn't expect on the first listen. The music can go from hitting some of the most brutal and extreme moments, but it always comes back to these absolutely majestic and melodic passages and riffs that tie everything together and holds things there for a majority of the time. Think of a band like Old Man's Child with less extreme elements, and that's the closest I could get to a comparison. This stands out on its own, and it's great to hear something like this that can hit so many levels but always come back to the style of uncomfortable ease that keeps your interest and makes you wonder what is coming next. If that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, give this one a shot and see if it really is for you. Now we have Caught in Action with Out of the Cold. The sophomore album from the Swedish and Portuguese band is some sensational music in the style of AOR and melodic rock. While the production is more raw than you would typically get from the style, it does give the sense of like demos from the mid-80s that you've never heard of until now. The songs are filled with 80s glory and their catchy choruses, lean songwriting, and captivating performances. It truly hits everything that you want from that 1975 to 1989 sound, done in a way that feels authentic and straight from the heart. Sometimes you just want to hear a raw, pulsing, from the heart display of AOR, and that's exactly what you get with Caught in Action. If I can't sell it with those words, nothing else I could say would. If this sounds like it's of interest, give this one a proper listen. Now we have the almighty Cryptopsy with an insatiable violence. Making up for lost time, Cryptopsy is back with their second album in 2 years, and their second album in 13 years, and the band feels like they never missed a step. With Cryptopsy, there are certain things that you'll always expect from the band, outside of that one particular exception. That technical prowess, the jaw-dropping vocal range, Flo Monier's impossible drumming style that I could never achieve, and the overall sense that you're being beaten senseless from pillar to post from beginning to end. If the album title is not a dead giveaway of that you're gonna get all of that and more, just remember that the band has been proving that they're still at the top of their league in the past several years, and there's no sign of stopping anytime soon. The production is just clean enough, but still raw and very real. The songwriting is as pounding as ever, and it reminds me why you became a fan of them in the first place. While the band is not really experimenting with their sound in present times, they don't need to be. They know exactly what you came to them for, delivering music of the absolute extremes of extreme metal. This is what every brutal band has strived to do ever since Cryptopsy came on the scene, and so many try to copy them, but no one will ever duplicate what they're capable of. Check out what the Montreal Masters of Extreme Metal are doing in 2025, and remember why there's only one Cryptopsy. Now we have Dead End Irony with Battles and Brotherhood. The debut album from the third band from Finland with Dead End in their name that I'm aware of thankfully sets himself apart from the other two. Dead End Irony goes into more of a heavy metal and power metal route, where it feels like it kind of has that proto power metal sound with a nice full dose of heavy metal balancing everything out. The production style is thick in the right ways and lets everyone shine, and the songwriting is endlessly catchy, whether it's a slower track, a mid-tempo stomper, or they just go a little bit faster. They never go full guns blazing, but they really don't need to. Add a war and battle theme to all the songs, and you have a band that is for anyone, from Sabaton to Manila Road to Nivian to Claymorian. If you want an inspired take on all of this, check out what Dead End Irony is all about. I'm eagerly awaiting to see where they go from here. Here we have Dolvin with In My Grave, Silence. The third album in 9 years from this Portland band featuring members of Agalok, Traveler's Rest, Efferens, and Canvas Solaris is quite a welcome surprise to my ears. Never hearing of the band before, I have seen this album talked up and I was intrigued by the notion of acoustic doom, and if it could have the same emotional impact on the dark as the dark side of doom can have. I've learned that not only it can, but it might hit even harder, as the vocals are so clear and the lyrics will hurt that much more. The production is pristine, and the performances on display are exactly what is called for to be effective. While having obvious nods to other bands, I also hear a lot of early day Ancient Wisdom, the Chachwin, and the Jars of Fly era of Alice in Chains. Add all of that together and you have one of the most intriguing doom albums of 2025. And if you're intrigued by that notion, you should give Dolvin a spin and see if they are for you. I was pleasantly won over, and you might be as well. Now we have Flight of Icarus with Terra Nova. The third album from the Swedish duo is some of the most moving music that I've heard in this style in quite some time. It can get as heavy as metal tends to do, but the vocals are pure pop influenced of that 80s to the 2000s sound, and the atmosphere is dripping in 80s synth, 90s new age, and the cinematic touch that makes it feel like a soundtrack to a film that you've never seen. With this much time under the belts, they are exploring more of what is possible by pushing the boundaries of all the genres they want to perform and pushing what genre bending is all about. The album cover gives such a good insight as to what the album is going to sound like, given the space feel behind it all, while still giving so much room for a mystique that can only be heard to understood. This is an album that sounds gorgeous from start to finish, and I highly recommend this one for anyone who enjoys the solo work of Annika van Giersbergen, the duo known as Silent Skies, or if you want to hear what Enya might have sounded like if she was in a heavy band. I can't say this will be for everyone, but for those that find this idea interesting, you need to give this one a proper listen and check it out for yourself. Next up, we have Glass Island with Shallow Graves for Shallow People. The fourth album from this Polish progressive rock band is a true sign that progressive rock is hitting hard in 2025. Sure, there's not as many pure prog rock bands that have put out albums so far this year in 2025, but that could easily change with the second half. But when they hit, they go right for the jugular. For this album, I hear a band that has taken an approach that is hitting hard and heavy in the right spots, but focusing so much more and more minimal approaches to the songwriting and staying away from the rankiness that can really drive the genre. This is more for the fans of the middle era of Porcupine Tree, you know, the Lightbulb Sun, Stupid Dream era, Lunatic Soul, or Lunatic Soul, depending on how you pronounce it, and the latter day Riverside stuff. And even bands like RPWL will really find something to appreciate here. The production feels both modern and vintage at the same time, and it's quite the achievement. Overall, this is an album that hits harder and harder with every listen. The lyrics hit you like a ton of bricks, and when they connect with you, and the overall atmosphere of it all, it feels like a sad but relatable look at the modern day. If you want a fun but sad look at prog in 2025, make sure to give Glass Island a look, as they have more than earned a shot to your prog ears. Now we have a band name that I think is pronounced Irreverie with The Absence of Light. The debut album from this North Carolina band is pushing the boundaries of what metalcore can be, and I'm all here for it. This hits some of the heaviest moments that I've heard in the genre this year, and balancing out with these amazing melodic moments and catchy choruses that feel like you're really going in a journey of the soul. It's not often you can hear a band that is channeling bands like Converge, Counterparts, and The Contortionist all into one sound, but that's what's going on here. The production is polished as you would imagine a modern metalcore album to sound like, and the songwriting is so well crafted. Especially for a debut album, I'm highly impressed by what's going on with Irreverie, and I imagine some great things will come from them in the future. Jump on board now if you want to see what the future of metalcore can and potentially should be. Next up, we have Kusanagi with Paramnesia, the third album from this Liverpool band's career, and they have crafted one of the best post-rock, math rock albums I've heard in a very long time. Combining the best of both genres and never going too far into either genre is a fine line to walk, but they have nailed it in the sound, and it feels so rewarding to listen to time and time again. The guitars lead you on this otherworldly journey while the rhythm section does its best to keep everything just grounded enough. The production is crystal clear, and you can hear everything on level just as it's intended. I couldn't recommend this more for the fans of likes of Long Distance Calling, and So I Watch You From Afar, and Maybe She Will. This is an invigorating life into these genres in a way that I didn't know needed to be brought back to life, but Kusanagi is delivering the goods in the best of ways. Seriously, check this one out if you enjoy these styles, as it's going to be hard to top this album in 2025. Now we have Light of Vimana with Neapolis. So, this is album of the year worthy in every single way, at least to my ears. Jeremy Lewis of Mesmer, Riccardo Conforti of Void of Silence, and the legendary Deha have created one of the best displays of Gothic Doom in 2025. This hits every single layer that I love, from the soul-draining tempos to the crushing production, to the genre bending done in the slightest of ways, to the spectacular performances from everyone involved. From the orchestrated synths to the blood-curdling vocal displays, the overwhelming display of despair in the tones. This is everything I live for when it comes to Gothic Doom, and I couldn't possibly recommend it more. If you want near funeral doom levels of Gothic Doom, check out what Light of Vimana has in store for you. Trust me, this won't be the last time I talk about this one this year. Now we have Lord Helmet with Take Evasive Action. This couldn't be more appropriate to talk about, as Spaceballs 2 will be tentatively coming out in 2027, and the announcement trailer just came out a few days ago as of recording this. The sophomore album from this Canadian prog band hits every level of electrified prog rock that I thought was gone from a lot of people's radar. It gets nice and heavy in the right spots in a King Crimson and Porcupine Tree kind of way, all while making things feel very lively and fresh in a Haken and Muse kind of way. And then you add this 80s layer that shouldn't work, but it makes everything catchier in the vein of like 80s David Bowie or Joy Division and Simple Minds. It sounds so odd on paper, but when you hear it, it all makes sense. The production is as 80s as it gets, and I wouldn't want it any other way. The songwriting goes all over the place, but it never sounds like a hodgepodge of sound, and the performances on display are spellbinding. This is how you make an astounding and fun prog album in 2025. With all that said, I really want to know what Rick Moranis would think of this album and this band. Well, I'll say for myself, this band does give great Helmet. Now we have Monumentum Damnati with From Beyond. The sophomore album from this duo was such a delight of a dark album to listen to time and time again, feeling like a grand mix of symphonic black metal, melodeath, and dark metal, mixed in a way that doesn't feel contrived, and it feels as authentic as possible. From Beyond hits the highest realms of what these genres and more can sound like when done in a well-crafted manner. The production does this ebb and flow with the mix, sometimes sounding fantastic and sometimes hitting a style that makes you turn your head and make you wonder what's going on, but that's also part of the journey. The songwriting is on point and it keeps your attention through all 11 tracks and 45 minutes and change. Somehow this all comes off sounding like an unholy mix of Dimmu Borgir, Septic Flesh, and Daylight Dies all rolled into one. Overall, this is an incredible trip of an album, and if you enjoy these styles, you should take the plunge and give this one your proper attention. Next up, we have Morgul with Ocean Grave. The debut album from this Albanian band is a dark yet enchanting look at what progressive death doom can be, and it leaves a haunting impression. It mixes the genres of progressive, death, doom, post-metal, and more to create a concoction that leaves a striking impression. The production is a bit rough, but it also adds a bit of character to the music. I can hear elements of bands like November's Doom, Enslaved, Woe Unto Me, and Cult of Luna all over this one. It's a rough listen as it hits hard on an emotional level, and that's exactly what you need to go into for this music. While it's not for everybody, especially if you're having a good day, and maybe you shouldn't put this one on, it is for those that are looking for the brooding death doom album that messes with your expectations and leaves you guessing. If you want that in 2025, check out Morgul. Next up, we have Neurotech with Exo Escapism. The 11th album from this one-man Slovakian band is my first foray into this project, but it's left me intrigued. Between the styles of industrial, electronic, dance, and metal genres blended together lies a project that feels like it is from the heart, and it hits harder and harder on repeated listens. The production on this is one that exactly is what it needs to be effective, and the songwriting, it's endlessly catchy. If you dig the likes of Cybreed, Pain, and especially Master Boot Record, this should be something that should be right up your alley. I get entranced every time that I put this one on, and it's a fun ride. And if you need something like that in 2025, and honestly, who couldn't use something like that right now, check out what Neurotech has in store for you. Now we have Obstruction with The End Takes Form. The sophomore album from this Gothenburg outfit is an intriguing mix that I can't get enough of. Mixing 90s death metal, especially with that HM2 pedal, and 2000s metalcore into a sound that just hits so nice and heavy. The production is that perfect sound of mixing both styles, and the songwriting does the same. Imagine a mix of Entombed, Hatebreed, and Earth Crisis, and you have a band that will not be for everyone, but if you enjoy the more hardcore style of things, and you want that with a nice heavy mix of metalcore and death metal, Obstruction has nailed it for you. 9 songs, 33 minutes and change, and filled to the brim with pure, unadulterated intensity. It's short and sweet, that's exactly what it needs to be. Now we have Enfant with Dimsval, and I really hope I pronounced both of those right. Featuring past and present members of Despite, Aeonian Sorrow, Void of Hope, and Arctura, Enfant is a band that is hitting the deepest levels of what satanic black metal truly can be. The raw but effective production style, the songwriting that feels grandiose, yet it feels like you're entering the gates of hell. That overall vibe of 90s black metal mixed in with just enough herbs and spices to make it sound like it's its own entity, and you have the 5th album from this Finnish band. Of course, the obvious influence on this band is Dark Funeral, but I would also recommend this one for anyone who enjoyed the new Malphas album that I just covered a little bit ago, Wattane, and even at times, Carpathian Forest. Yeah, it kind of gets a little punky at times. This is a stunning display of how effective black metal can be in 2025, and it only pulls you in more and more as you let it flow through you. If you want your black metal in its truest essence, give this one a proper spin. Next up, we have Pewter Aeon, and I hope that's how you pronounce it, with Mountains of Madness. Despite the band's debut album coming out in 2011, this is my first foray into the band with their 5th album, and oh, how I wish I heard them sooner. This is what I love about the classic sound of death metal, but outdated just enough to be effective to still work in the modern day. The production sounds vintage, yet it's so audibly clear thanks to the mixing and mastering of the almighty Dan Swano. The songwriting takes you on twists and turns that you simply won't see coming, especially for a genre that is as tried and true as classic death metal can be. This feels like a gargantuan album, and the themes and lyrics match up with the music to give it that feel. Even at 9 songs and just about 40 minutes long, when you finish this album, it does feel like you conquered a mountain. Not an intentional pun, but hey, it works. Every time that you spin it again, you get that same satisfying feeling. If you want a great mix of Grave, Morbid Angel, Unleashed, and At the Gates, you need to give Pewter Aeon your proper attention. Next up, we have Pewter Aeon, and I hope that's how you pronounce it, with Mountains of Madness. Despite the band's debut album coming out in 2011, this is my first foray into the band with their 5th album, and oh how I wish I heard them sooner. This is what I love about the classic sound of death metal, but outdated just enough to be effective to still work in the modern day. The production sounds vintage, yet it's so audibly clear thanks to the mixing and mastering of the almighty Dan Swano. The songwriting takes you on twists and turns that you simply won't see coming, especially for a genre that is as tried and true as classic death metal can be. This feels like a gargantuan album, and the themes and lyrics match up with the music to give it that feel. Even at 9 songs and just about 40 minutes long, when you finish this album, it does feel like you conquered a mountain. Not an intentional pun, but hey, it works. Every time that you spin it again, you get that same satisfying feeling. If you want a great mix of Grave, Morbid Angel, Unleashed, and At the Gates, you need to give Pewter Aeon your proper attention. Next up, we have Slizzard with Wicked Tales. The debut album from this LA band is a fantastic mix of the past and the present, and it feels so satisfying to hear time and time again. Mixing what worked so well in the 70s and 80s era of heavy metal, and updating the sound just enough for some 21st century audiences, while having this authentic feel behind it all. The production is that modern vintage sound that always works, and the songwriting can go from the grand scales to simplistic riffs, and it makes it all for the music to maintain this interesting sound, and it leaves you wondering what will come next. They can do everything from Scorpions to Metal Church to Doro to Royal Thunder on this one, and it's a fun combination to hear it on repeated listens. If you're looking for a modern revival metal sound, I can't recommend this one enough. It's a solid listen. Up now, we have Slumbering Sun with Starmony. The sophomore album from this Austin, Texas band featuring members of Enforcer, Destroyer of Light, Temptress, and Monty Luna is quite the treat for those who enjoy their Doomed in a varied and vast direction. This hits nearly every style of conventional Doom tropes while never truly letting you know what path they're going to be following. The production is crystal clear and the style is so cool to hear, especially with that songwriting that feels so fresh and inspired, even with hitting those familiar genre types. You'll get nods to everything from Black Sabbath to Pallbearer to The Sword and everything in between. If you want a loving tribute to the more melodic and dare I say fun side of Doom, Slumbering Sun has a little bit of everything for you, and it makes a great listen with Starmony. Seriously, give this one a shot. Up next, we have The Soundbite with Still Quiet, the 5th album from Trom Engum of The Third and the Mortal, who recently reunited last year, is my first taste of what this project is all about, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't get into like Chaos or Merzbow styles of avant-garde and experimental music, but you truly don't know what you're going to get with any particular song until it starts playing. It can go from post-metal to folk to electronic to 80s goth to ambient in the blink of an eye, but it can also happen so gradually you won't even notice. Production is profound, and all the styles at play and the songwriting, while it's off the wall, it does fit in context with everything else on the album. This is absolutely a case for it not being for everyone, but if you like your music eclectic, this is one of the finest examples that we have in 2025 so far. This might take like 2, 3, maybe even 15 times for you to truly get it, but once it unlocks for you, it'll make the whole journey worth the destination. If you dare, give this one a shot and see what the Soundbite is all about. Now we have Sun After Dark with Tatkraft. The debut album from this German duo is one of the most adventurous albums that I've heard in the heavier ends of music in 2025 so far. It's not an easy listen by any means, and it forces you to pay attention to everything that's going on. This is not kick back and listening music. Pay attention to this one. It will hit you with a genre change-up that you simply won't see coming, yet it makes so much sense when you see how it plays out. This hits so many different styles of gothic metal, industrial, black metal, progressive dark metal, and more. Feeling like this really strange mix of Celtic Frost, Rammstein, Dark Fortress, The Vision Bleak, and more. The production fits the mold without being too polished or too raw, and the songwriting, again, it goes all over the place, but not in a wonky way. It makes sense in context. I don't think you're gonna hear another album quite like this one in 2025, so if you're up for it, give Sun After Dark a shot and see if they pull you into their realm. Next up, we have Under Ruins with Age of the Void. The debut album from this German outfit featuring past and present members of Them, one of the most underrated bands by the way. Remember Twilight, My Own Black, and Anguish have come together to create a triumphant and astounding slab of heavy metal and power metal. This is very much of the proto-power metal sound, so it never really hits the blazing fast double bass or the killer guitar twin sound or those insane vocal ranges. This is much more of like the Manila Road, Visigoth, and Beholder other style. That is that more slower to mid-tempo movements, but extremely pleasant vocal deliveries and an overall epic feeling when you hear it. The production has this modern vintage sound with the best qualities of both styles, and everyone on display is doing an exceptional quality work here. I'm not sure if this album will get as much attention as the aforementioned Beholder, but they deserve to be in the conversation for one of the best revival metal albums of 2025. If you dig the style, give them a proper listen, and you'll see their magic unfold. This thing rules. Now we have Vanvid with an album title I know I'm gonna get wrong. As Vil Ritualer. If I got anywhere near that, I don't know how, but it's really hard. Just look at it. The folk metal has been coming back strong in 2025, and I'm happy that we have another album of it. This time it comes from the third album from this Norwegian folk metal band. The band takes a very different approach than what you consider to be normal in the genre. While it does explore a lot of folk instrumentation and styles, it's much more of a seasoning than a focal point. There are a ton of orchestral moments on this one that makes the music feel very epic in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. You mix that in with some more extreme metal and even prog metal elements, and you have an album that stands in its own field. It's an intriguing mix that I would say works well for those that appreciate the likes of Moonsorrow, Managarm, Kalma, and more, while still having their own sound. If you want a different take on what folk metal truly can be, see what Vanvid has to offer. Now we have Wildheart with Wild and 3. I love that pun so very much. 3 albums in 11 years from this Belgian rock band, and they have created some inspired and rockin' 80s tribute music. This has everything that you would expect from the better segments of the 80s rock scene, hitting that monumental musicianship and what I can only imagine would be a really fantastic show to see. The production has that 80s sound as well down to a perfect T, and the songwriting feels like an album that was made in 1984, but unearthed now in 2025. I can't sell it much better than that. If you want a band that does the best elements of bands like Rat, Dokken, the 80s era of Whitesnake, and Taiketo, you need Wildheart, and you need them now. Now we have Wrath of Belial with Embers of Dead Empires. A shocking mix of tech death, melodeath, and thrash aligns with Wrath of Belial and their sophomore album, which comes 8 years after their debut, so you can imagine a lot has changed since 2017, and this album is a great example of that both for the band and for life itself. This is a brutal album that has so much melodicness and thrashy moments that you just wouldn't expect in the style. Having full-on guitar solos rather than just a few bar leads is a welcome change, especially in the sound. The production on this one is punishing, and I can understand why some people might even get like ear fatigue on this one, especially because the drums and cymbals are louder than everything else on this album, which you don't normally get, but it is also pretty cool to hear it that way as well. But the music more than makes up for everything with this unholy trinity of genre bending. Imagine Cattle Decapitation, The Black Dahlia Murder, and The Crown all rolled into one, and you have one of the most monstrous albums of 2025 that will pummel you into the ground from beginning to end. You may need to proceed with caution, especially if this isn't your normal listening habit, but if you check it out, you may find a rewarding listening experience. And finally, my 600th album review of the year is You Vandal with This Is Where People Come to Die. Being a metalhead for over 25 years of my life, and probably closer to 30 at this point, it's not often that I hear a non-metal or rock album that specifically gets me as excited as a brand new metal album would. But I do have soft spots for some non-metal and not rock albums, and well-made pop-punk is one of them. Upon hearing the 5th album from this Florida band, it's one of the best examples of an album that can excite me even for the heaviest of music fans while doing exactly what they want. This masterful mix of 2000s pop punk, emo, 90s alternative, and more just makes for an electrifying album to listen to time and time again. While I hear so many influences from bands like Bad Religion, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, and others, I don't hear any exact parallels. They are taking these ideals and making them their own and creating their own trail in a well-treaded genre. No two songs sound the same, which makes the music even more exciting to listen to. If you normally check out my list, you were likely checking out stuff in the rock and metal worlds. Sometimes it's nice to take a break and check out some well-crafted music in other fields, like the punk genre. And that's exactly what you get with You Vandal. All I ask is that you give a track or two a chance and see if you agree. You might be surprised by what you discover. And there you go, folks. Another 40 albums done for the first half of 2025 and 600 album reviews I've covered so far in the first half of 2025. So what do you think? Did I cover some good stuff, some bad stuff, anything I left out, anything worth checking out, anything that you're going to check out or steer clear of? Please let me know in the comments down below. And make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. As I mentioned in the beginning, I am taking a well-deserved break from reviews. I'm taking a summer vacation and coming back at the end of July, where I'll be covering all the albums that I missed in July 2025. I think I've more than earned that after 600 album reviews this year. But I'll also be doing some mega compilations that show off the best of June, all the albums that I covered so far this year, all of that good stuff. And of course, if the opportunity arises, I'll still be doing interviews, and of course the weekly podcast, which you should be checking out. But until all of that, and my return to Out Today and What I Missed at the end of July for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, embrace the skullet.